there's just two more things I want to show you to kind of visualize the final result and make sure everything, is working properly, or potentially maybe manually dropping or merging some cells. So the one thing is this generate video visualization, which will, give you a video that you can download. I just downloaded it. So here, basically, I already see this in the talk yesterday. We had the raw video, you have the pre-processed video, like motion corrected. So that's kind of the input to the model. Then you have the cellular activity that's captured by the model, and you have the residue. So basically, what you're looking for is that first of all, the model and the input sort of match up, and then there's kind of minimum stuff happening in the residue other than some sort of background and noise. So this is one way you can sort of check the result. The other thing you can do is run these two cells here. It says CMF Viewer. Okay. I see a question. Is it about the viewer, or I can take
Uh,
question now?
I was never able to generate that final video. Is that because of that one cell missing that you just mentioned? I
Do you know
always,
what's the error?
I don't have it right now, but I wasn't able to it wasn't able to generate the video.
Was it something like we are not defined?
Maybe I can open one of the previous notebooks and I'll
Okay.
let you know later. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, might be just that. And I hope everyone understand what's going on, because it's just variable from before that's lost when we restart the kernel, and you just
So
need to
this
load
cell
them.
should be added.
Yeah, for this, if you
Okay.
restart the kernel, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, so we're gonna use this CMF viewer. So here, I'm gonna quickly go over this. You have these three kind of panel here. The left one is the spatial footprint of all the cells, and then the middle one is a spatial footprint of 5 or like some number of selected cells with their sort of ID kind of plotted on top of it in red. And the red panel is like the raw, not really the raw, but the input to the CMF, which is basically the pre-processed and motion corrected movie. So you have this here, and there's quite a few things you can do. Like you can play stuff, except it's sort of slow and they don't really play smoothly. But what I usually do to check for cells is like, okay, so here are the temporal activity of these 5 cells here. I see 156 is this guy here. The way I want to make sure whether 150 is real is that I go to the time when this guy is firing, which you can see is right here. If you double click here, the frame is gonna jump to there, and uh, the raw movie will also be updated to that frame. So this is the way you sort of sanity check whether a cell is real. So you can see that 150C right here in the raw movie, there's a cell, looks like there's a lights up. So if I jump to, if I jump to a place where it doesn't fire, that place is kind of dark. If I jump to another place that is supposed to fire again, you see, okay, it has a slightly dimmer activity, but that's sort of expected. So this is how you sort of make sure a cell is firing or not. I guess we have a backend here, 95. I don't know what's that, because the temporal traces of that is really small. In this case, you can turn on the normalize, which will kind of scale everything to the full range. You see that 95 is only have one activity right here. And if I go to the raw movie on that time, like I don't really see anything. Maybe there's a blob that's kind of lighting up by 1 or 2 pixel like fluorescence value, but I don't know what's going on. So maybe in this case, I'll say 95, maybe that's a bad cell, it's a false positive. So you can also use this viewer to drop cells. So in this case, I'm gonna select 95 and I'm gonna do discard selected. The only thing happens here, as you notice, is that we have this unit label column. And when I select 95 and do discard, the unit label for that become -1. So this is the way Minia store kind of manually curated data or manually selected data. We don't actually drop any data for you. The only thing we do is that we add another sort of metadata variable called unit label, and the numbers in that variable is gonna tell you, what's going on with this cell. So normally the unit label will match the unit ID of the cell. So you can see they correspond to cell 208 have a unit label 208, 198 has a unit label 198. So if that's the case, that means this cell is good. We're happy with this cell. So when you want to drop a cell, the unit label for that cell become -1. And if you, for your downstream analysis, you can easily get rid of this by doing some sort of simple masking, right? Like select all the cells that has a unit label greater than 0 will help you do that. And so this is the way we sort of store the information of whether you want to drop cells without actually dropping them, the data. Because what happens if you go back and change your mind and say, okay, maybe I want more cells, maybe I'm dropping too much, things like that may happen in practice. So this is our way to kind of store this information and without dropping stuff for you. So the only other thing I want to mention is that, let's say if you have 2 cells that you think that actually 1 cell. So let's say for example 198 and 208. For some reason I believe they are the same cell, like they are. They're not probably, but let's say I determine that these two activities are too close to each other, they're probably the same cell, and I want to merge them. All you need to do is to select 208 and 198 and say merge selected. You see that what happens is that the unit label will be the same for both of them, and they'll be based on some sort of criteria. One of the unit ID will be used as a unit label for both of them, and this is the way okay, I go into the viewer and decided these two guys should be the same cell basically. So you can determine what to do with these guys yourself later. I can answer the question right now.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's just a very quick question. So in the output, do we keep the original labels plus our manual made labels, or?
Oh, I'm gonna show that right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
I only
Is another
get like
question?
tiny little rectangles for the 2 panels in the middle and on the right.
Oh. That's weird, but
Me
if you go
too.
to the line that generate this, the first line says HP output size equals output size times 0.08.
Yes.
You can change this number to be larger. That control the display size. Maybe try like 1.5 is really tiny. Or 1.
I think if you have use AC checked, I had use AC checked and had
you're talking
just
about
like
this.
a weird rectangle, and I unchecked it and got this.
Are you guys referring to this or the whole panel?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. So uncheck this. I'm gonna quickly tell you what this is doing. It's something very demanding, computation demanding. I'm not sure how much is helpful it is. So basically, when you have use AC check, the middle panel become a spatial temporal kind of dynamic. So let me go into a place where you can see now the middle panel is not like the spatial footprint ourselves are not there anymore all the time. It become a tiny little window and it's gonna change based on time. So So when this cell is not fire, that's gonna be it's supposed to be dark, but I don't know what's going on. It's very slow. Let's try another one. Okay, so let's say if we go to here, you see 208 is sort of active. So basically, when you have used AC, this middle panel become the cellular activity video in the previous video we talked about. And because we cannot really store the video in memory, this is computed on the fly. So that's why when you have this checked, it's kind of very slow. If you prefer this, this is, I guess it can be kind of cool if you go to different frames, you see different cells light up in the modeled activity, and you see that match up with the raw video. That can be helpful. But even without that, this can be helpful. Yeah, that's what's happening.
If I uncheck it, it just makes the middle blue, and I only get like a few units in this was what previously the former box was, and only the right panel looks good.
You mean like this? What if you reset?
Yeah, exactly like this. Shouldn't I see more cells?
There are, if you didn't change anything, like there should be 5 displayed at the same time.
Oh, so it's always just these random 5 guys.
It's a subset because we really cannot plot all the temporal activity.
Yes,
here.
I see.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'm gonna show you guys something more. If you want to change,
I think we have one more question actually from
okay.
Alan, unless that was
right.
from a previous.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to know what the refresh button and also the load data button.
They are not supposed to be pressed.
Okay, that's good.
That's a quick answer. Refresh
Okay.
is when you have multiple data set. Load data, load everything in memory, but that barely working.
Yeah, that's what
red.
I've been experiencing before.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a quick answer. One quick thing. Okay, since we're on this, there's a box select tool here. If you click on that, you can make selection of cells in the left panel. So let's say I want to visualize this 4 guy, you can draw it. Give it a few times. Somehow it's very slow. I don't know where it's working. Damn it. Okay, maybe I shouldn't show this. Something that's not working.
It worked for me, like when I draw it, like it got updated, the screen. Yeah.
Are you right now?
Yeah, right now I just
Okay.
drew some random file, and the second and third box they got updated.
Oh, I'm glad it works for someone. Anyway, okay, fine. Maybe I.
Oh, while you're waiting, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So how do you change the number of cells that you show in panel 2, the second panel?
The number of cells cannot really be changed. Like it's always gonna be 5 unless you do the thing I'm trying to show. But I'm just gonna rerun this.
What if I want to see 20 cells and their
you
traces?
need to hack the source. I'm sorry. But you do need to go through. You can go through different 5 cells.
Okay, cool.
So like you do have a chance to go through all your cells. It's just the simultaneous number of cells display is not really exposed. I guess I can expose as a parameter in the future.
Yeah, I think that will be helpful because otherwise I probably need to go through each group if I want to merge or discard, and that takes a lot of
That's
time.
true. Yeah.
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 Cool. Thank you.
Noted. Yep. Okay, I want to quickly show this thing because people ask about how is this unit label actually saved. So I'm gonna show, before I run this, I'm gonna show you what we have in A right now. You see that these variables, you see the x-ray tell you the coordinates of this variable. And right now we only have height, width, and unit ID, 3 coordinates correspond to the 3 dimension of this A matrix, right? Because that's what it's supposed to look like, is spatial footprint for each cell. That has 3 dimension. So once we run this line, after you do the unit label thing, we run this and basically assign a new coordinates on the unit ID dimension. So now, if I insert a new cell and look at this again, you see that in addition to the 3 dimension coordinates, you have a unit label coordinates. You know, for these guys, it's just they just correspond to the unit ID. But for some guys that we kind of changed, you'll see they will have a corresponding -1 or some other number in this variable. So that's how this information is stored. And once you're happy with that, go ahead and run the save final result. And we are actually done for the demo part, at least. Are there any questions before we sort of move on?
Phil?
Yes.
Now that we went through it and whatnot, do you guys have a batch version in the works or that you're already using? Or I mean, as in, I made my own Gator version, basically copy pasting from the notebook and like adapting some of the outputs and stuff. But I was wondering if there's anything that would be more optimized for that, or this is kind of the status now.
This is kind of the status. We used to have a batch processing notebook, but that's sort of, I realized, I don't know, like the complication in that is now really kind of overweighting the benefit of it. So if I'm gonna do this myself, I will probably adopt the same strategy as you. I basically kind of convert this notebook to a Py file and put it in like a for loop, stuff like that. I think the main difficulty of having something like that is to how to handle like different folder structure for people, and how to save the parameter they use, right? Because right now, the part of the reason we also choose a notebook is that for each session, ideally, you have its own pipeline notebook, and you sort of have a record of every single thing you did for that session, and that's all stored in a notebook. That's not really possible with batch processing. We basically have to sort of duplicate notebook and sort of communicate with that for it to run. That's kind of hard. So yeah, that's sort of the status right now. If I see better option to kind of batch running notebook, I may implement that. But other than that, I'll just copy it for a loop, something like that.
Gotcha. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So this version is, I'm probably using a previous version because I don't have the contents, and I noticed that several other things were changing. So this is the new version that I can get from GitHub, correct?
Yes.
Cool. So one thing that I tried that I don't know if may be helpful for other people is that I tried to use this notebook with a paper mill.
Yes, that's how I used to do the batch processing.
So it actually used to work well. I stopped working in the last days, probably because I made some update to the packages that I still have to figure out.
Yeah.
But so one thing that I didn't think before is the fact that I actually just did the batch processing without saving the notebook. But now that I'm thinking about that, actually Papermill gives you the possibility to save the notebook with different names, like you have run analysis out.
Yes.
So I imagine that in principle, it should be possible to actually change a name for each animal and session. What I don't know is the fact that if he's saving all these visualization results or not. I don't know about that.
Right. So that's okay. Since we're on this, I'm gonna quickly tell you my experience. This stuff like this will be saved because they are sort of a static visualization. It's just literally just a plot. I think that it's possible to be saved in a notebook. Stuff like this will not be saved because all these are kind of computed on the fly, like it's dynamically generated for you. So it's either not be saved or it will be like a crappy snapshot of it will be saved in the notebook. So that's that. But the real problem, at least when I was doing batch processing with paper mill, is that when I define the parameter block with paper mill, it's the last time I tried it, it only supports some like a JSON or I think it's YML or JSON. But anyway, the parameter can only, it has to be serializable. So I cannot do something like this, like numpy.u in 8. That's not an option as a parameter because that requires numpy to be imported to be defined. It's not possible with JSON or something like that. So I think that's kind of my heart. It's kind of the reason I sort of find it's too complicated to do it. But yeah, so if you let's say if you get rid of this, you do care about this, or like you get rid of some other thing, that doesn't. So as long as you can make your parameter all defined by like a JSON file or YAML file, I think paper mill is definitely possible.
So the way that I did it, I mean, I didn't change this D type, but for example, you can easily put another cell before this.
Yes.
And you define, for example, the D path, or you can change your WND size.
Yes.
So these sort of things. And what the paper mill will do is like injecting these parameters.
Yeah.
And so that is definitely possible.
Yeah. So I mean, we had to give up the ability to change some variable. So
yeah, probably not everything is changeable. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think we are kind of really slow. Like we didn't stick to the plan that well, but at least we finished the demo. I think the plan is that for whoever that uploaded data with MetaCell, you can go ahead and run them. And everyone here will stick around to answer any sort of question that arise. I'll try to do my best to answer. But if if you have more specific question, if I like a specific error, we might have like a TA assist you in a breakout room. And then I think we're gonna aim to sort of have a closing remark around 5 p.m. Eastern time. I apologize, this is not the same as a schedule and you have so little time to run all your own stuff. But I believe your cloud instance will be available to you even after this. Stephen can confirm, and we'll have active support at least up to 5 p.m. today. And after that, we'll have the Slack channel active to answer any question for you. I see a question. Is it about the pipeline or about what's going to happen next?
About the pipeline and our own
okay.
data, but I'm just curious about cross-registration. So because I noticed there's also that notebook, and that's something I've started to play with, but just wondering if you have any like overview type gotchas or tips about that.
Gotchas, definitely. There's a huge gotcha that everyone hates me for. That is, you have to make sure your input data has a proper metadata being set. So I sort of hard-coded it in the cross-registration that because when we do this, I need to load in data across multiple sessions and do stuff across multiple sessions. So I kind of, in a lot of cases, I need a dimension of session to be defined to do stuff like this. So that means when you are running Minion, there's I think there's a parameter called I already deleted it. There's a parameter in save Minion that's called meta dictionary. You need to make sure that is actually correctly set so that your data has a correct metadata, and you need to make sure there's a session variable for every single data set you run. And then if all your data have that session variable, you can run this notebook without much problem. But people tend to overlook that, and their metadata will be something that doesn't make sense, like some wrong level of folder name, and that usually gives problem. That's the biggest gotcha. Other than that, the algorithm itself is quite simple. It's just like do a registration of the session. Then based on the distance between cells, I say the mutual nearest neighbor is going to be the same cell. If we want to carry this across multiple pair of sessions, we do all possible pairs and we try to resolve all the conflicts with some algorithm. But that's kind of the overview. The only parameter you sort of need to change is here param distance. This is the distance threshold for cells to be considered the same cell. So this basically cells has to be within each other by this number of pixels to be possibly considered as the same cell. So that's basically the only parameter you need for this notebook. Yeah, and that's it. The output format is a data frame. That should be easily readable. It's kind of like an overview.
Okay, all right, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the session.
So-
Oh.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Just quickly. So that metadict that you mentioned. So
Yes.
basically, it's just doing like the folder name.
Yes.
Pulls
Let me
it
just
out.
go
Yeah.
to.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw it in the.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Later one.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's like
which
session,
level of
yeah.
folder to
Yeah.
use as the metadata. Yeah.
Okay,
If you
great.
hit that, you just make sure you assign the coordinate. Like you make sure you fix the session.
No, I
before
usually
running.
put it in
Yeah.
that kind of folder structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.